So have you seen it yet? Today we're talking about Superman. And let me tell you this, whether you've already seen it or you haven't seen it yet, whether you loved it or you hated it, you need to see this episode because Superman isn't just about Superman. This is a billboard screaming from our culture to you what our culture wants you to become. So you need this episode. Stay tuned. Hey, but before we go to that stinger, let me just ask you this. I don't want you to be distracted. Just look at me in the eyes. Just look real close. Please subscribe. See, I said it nice. I said it nice. All right, well, welcome to the State of the Union. And we are going to be talking about Superman today. So let's get going. Now, let me frame all of this just very quickly. I'm going to dazzle you with some of my incredible knowledge. Superman was invented by two Jewish kids. One was named Siegel. And the other one was Schuster. Yeah. So Siegel was the one that ended up coming up with the idea. He shared it with Schuster. They met when they were in high school. They had some ups and downs together, trying to get this idea of Superman published. I think Superman started out as some scientist did an experiment on a guy and he got superpowers and stuff like that. Not great, but then he improved it as it went along. But at some point, Siegel and Schuster got upset with each other and parted ways, came back together because they knew that's what friendship's all about.
That's why we're here.
That's why you and I are here, right? How many fights have we been in? So anyway, but we're together.
We are Batman,
and that is what it's all about. So finally they get this thing published
with DC or without DC.
It was with Action Comics.
Action Comics, yes.
But when they did sell the story to Action Comics, they actually gave up the copyrights to everything they've ever done to DC Comics, this new thing called Detective Comics, and then they took it over after that. And Siegel worked for DC Comics for years. At some point, he even stopped working on Superman. They just took it. Because in those days, that's what it was. You were the talent. You did the stuff, you disappeared so the corporate world could take it. It's a crime. But what you have to remember, this is the interesting part. This is
what year would this have been? Okay, go on. Go on.
I am 80% sure. Okay, yeah. So when it finally published, when it went out to the world, it was 1938. Now, what's significant about it being 1938 is that, of course, World War II was starting to cook a little bit. And Hitler was doing his thing. And so you have these two Jewish boys bringing out this story about a guy named Superman, right? Whose skin is bulletproof. That was during all the metamorphosies, doesn't matter. As it morphed, that was very important to Siegel.
Very invulnerable.
Yeah. He had to be invulnerable, could hold his breath for a long time, could fly.
Doesn't bleed.
Yeah, nothing hurts him.
Nothing
hurts him. He is a Superman. Now, at the same time, you have Hitler, who wants to exterminate the Jews, and his big hero is a guy named Friedrich Nietzsche. Now, to be fair to all the Nietzsche fans out there, the one of you that are listening for the next 5 minutes before you get upset.
Black hole.
Nietzsche, the way Hitler understood Nietzsche was not how Nietzsche actually was. Nietzsche was dead by then. His sister was the one that was kind of communicating to Hitler what she thought Nietzsche was. And at that point, she was so on board with Nazism and all that stuff that somehow it all kind of fit in. But Hitler's understanding of Nietzsche was this. that you can make yourself become something greater than the human race, something better. Even though the rest of the world might be stuck in some kind of cultural rut, you can stand above culture, you can stand above everyone's belief systems, and that's what makes you the Übermensch. Now, the Übermensch was something Nietzsche came up with. In German, Übermensch is the overman.
Isn't Mensch a Jewish word?
No, Mensch is German, means man.
Okay.
Uber means over. However, another way of pronouncing the word, especially in German, if you were to interpret it, Übermensch would be Superman. So for Nietzsche, being the Superman was someone that stood above all this, the norms of everything else, the culture and all that stuff. And you do something that seems crazy to everyone else, but you're actually above them. That's what makes you the Superman.
Right.
For the two Jewish boys back in America who created Superman, he's a guy that's in the culture trying to help everybody who lives by the cultural norms.
Right.
Of saving people. What's the three things? Justice,
truth, justice, and the American way.
Truth, justice, and the American way. See, this would be completely anti-Nietzsche. Nietzsche would despise that. First of all, he wouldn't like the American way because that means an entire way of thinking in a particular nation is limiting you. Truth, he would laugh at. That you would fight for something that may or may not even exist. Justice is in the eye of the beholder for Nietzsche. So for Nietzsche, the Superman is one that rises above all these things. For the two Jewish boys that created Superman, he's the one that holds to those things. So this is what makes Superman so amazing. As it is made right before, because this is 1938, Superman comes out. What happens in 1939? That's where
September 1939.
Yeah, that's where most historians say that's when World War II started. So, is it just a movie? It's kind of just a movie, but it's also something else.
It's a part of culture.
It's a part of culture.
Culture has always tried to define who a hero is or what a hero is.
Yeah. Now, we don't have time to go over all the Supermen.
No.
But I will say this, just as a little rejoinder. I missed the Man of Steel when I watched this movie.
Which Man of Steel?
Cavill. Oof. And this is why. This is why. I missed him because he was manly. He was a man's man. He actually hurt the enemy on purpose without needing a bus to fly on them.
No, but he killed with his hands.
Yeah.
That's one of the things Superman never does.
Oh, okay. Well, you're a purist.
Well, okay. Here's the folklore that I grew up with. I appreciate the history lesson, but the folklore I grew up with is the idea that the Superman was the Christ figure. I don't believe that, but he was the Christ figure. He was pure. He did not kill with his hands. He was invulnerable. He was... They even showed him so many times in that crucifix position as he rose up. I think they were trying to keep him very pure. It's interesting to note, since you brought up other Superman films, one of the greatest anti-heroes in all of film history is considered to be The Godfather. The Godfather is written by Mario Puzo, and he writes the greatest anti-hero. He also goes to write the first version of Superman the film to make the greatest hero ever. Richard Donner's version in 70-something. The Superman
Reeves.
the Superman we connect with, we understand the music, the culture, all of those dynamics.
And
see, to me, the Henry
Cavill.
Yeah, that's the one that they tried to make very Christ-like. All that imagery in it, the whole where he goes to struggle. Where does he go to struggle?
Where does he go to struggle? I can't remember.
In a church. What's the stained glass window behind his head?
I don't know. What is stained glass?
Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane.
Wow.
And then his dad comes to him And Superman says, I cannot save them. And his father says to him, go give them the light. I send you to save the people. And what does Superman do? He turns around, spreads out his arms, and falls backwards out of the plane and saves the people.
Whoa.
You didn't catch all that?
I'm
the film teacher, so I catch a lot.
Yeah, the popcorn distracts. So, okay.
So here we are.
Here we are with this one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's talk about this one, because it's funny you should say the Christ figure, because you have two Jewish boys,
right,
who grew up in Judaism that says, the Messiah is coming, the Messiah is coming. So, okay, they don't believe that Jesus was the Messiah, but they still believe that a Messiah is coming.
Right.
So you can see how probably, and I don't know this for sure, I don't care enough to read about that, but they could have been thinking about Superman coming from a completely different place, not Earth, but a completely different place to come and be the savior of the people sent by his father, all that sort of thing. And they believe God is a monad. They don't believe in a Trinity. So this would mean that Superman would not be a Christ-like figure the way we would understand it, but would be a figure that would look a lot like that, but very human-esque. So that's a possibility. And so I want to leave that open.
See, that makes more sense to me, and this is why all these film directors from that one forward are constantly trying to tear down the image of Superman and make him a common man. No more super, just a man.
Now that's interesting. So typically, when we start out a Superman movie, at least in the past, we're seeing this this guy that can't be hurt. He is Superman. In fact, one of the Supermans, the one I kind of hated the most, there's someone shooting a gun at Superman, and you can see the bullets hit his eye, and the bullet shrinks to nothing and falls as it hits his eye. He doesn't even blink. He doesn't need to blink.
Why would he need to?
That's how invulnerable he is. Yeah. So that's just stupid. But this one, what's the first thing we? Oh, and by the way, if you're
spoiler alert.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, we'll try not to give away the spoilers that would ruin the movie further. Sorry, but yeah. So the first, but you've seen it on the previews. The first thing you see is Superman falling from the sky, hits the ground, coughing up blood.
Right, but that shot above, we call that the God shot in film. If you call for the God shot, it's that camera looking high above, looking down. We begin with that God shot that just circles in, and we see him bleeding. We see him vulnerable.
Now, what's significant about that?
I think they're trying to make this comment that he has fallen from the heights, he has fallen from the heavens, and he is just common, laying there, bruised, beaten, bleeding.
Yeah, and needs his dog to pull him back to the safety.
That dog. I don't get that dog thing.
I tried to trust James Gunn on this. I tried to trust him. I mean, he made us fall in love with a raccoon. Maybe he can make us fall in love with a dog.
Did you know the raccoon is voiced by his father in this film?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Well, it didn't help.
Circle of life.
Yeah, the circle.
Or that's something else. Never mind.
In Hollywood. But that's what was interesting to me. I wanted to believe he was going to make that dog matter. And nope, it was dumb.
The whole animal thing, I keep questioning. I feel like there's something more. We talk about the text, which is the film, which what we see, what we hear on the screen, and then there's context. That's what the director says. That's what the screenwriter, all these. I'm trying to just stay to the text and try to understand the text. I didn't get the animals. A lot of, unless they're trying to say that he's from Middle America, he'll homespun, Ma and Pa taught him to love animals.
See, here's the thing, though. This is where Hollywood, and the writers of Hollywood are not the geniuses of our time, and I get this. But they always try to go out of their lane. I mean, if he wants to tell us what it's like to grow up in a privileged home where everyone's rich, and then I get into Hollywood because my parents know someone, write that movie. But don't tell me how a Midwesterner is going to live who grew up on a farm, who suddenly is really concerned, and he goes out of his way to save a squirrel. A squirrel.
Okay, I've got a question about the squirrel since you brought up the squirrel.
Yeah.
He saves a squirrel. In the portrait of that dictator, he's holding a squirrel, and then Krypton is chasing super squirrels. What's the deal with the squirrels?
And you know what? I don't think he knows either. See, that's what, bad writing. There's bad writing. Bad writing is when you want something to mean something, but no one got it.
Right.
That's bad writing. Really bad writing is when you put something there and you don't know why, and people are trying to figure out why, but you don't know why. So there is no reason why, and it's stupid. This happens, and I'll tell you what, I got an MFA in creative writing. Doesn't mean I'm good at it, because only people that are bad at writing get degrees in creative writing. No offense. I know people get mad at me when I say things like that. But I will say this. There's two things we want to talk about today. Number one, the plot line. We got to talk about that. But this area where someone adds something for, I don't know if it's comedic, because they just thought it was funny, or they really meant it to be something and it wasn't. Watching Superman go out of his way to save a squirrel was probably the stupidest. So they have this giant monster that looks like Stitch on Lilo and Stitch.
It begins like Stitch, the size of Stitch.
Yeah, and then it grows, and you're supposed to have a little bit of feeling for it because, they end up, I don't know if I should, if you haven't seen it, you can mute this part.
Guess it.
They kill it. And you kind of feel bad because it looks like Stitch, and everyone likes Stitch, and I'm sure they did that on purpose. But here's my point. As he's trying to save everything while this giant thing's destroying the city, he saves a squirrel? A Midwesterner would not care about a squirrel. They probably know what it tastes
That's
like.
Nuts.
Yeah.
That's
nice.
nuts.
Thank you. We need that. And so it's like, you don't know Midwesterners at all. I mean, a Midwesterner would not, you go, oh, I think a squirrel's going to be harmed. And they're like, well, no, this is about Superman. And we're going to get into the beta male superhero in just a minute. But what I saw was a man that had no understanding of a particular lifestyle trying to write about a lifestyle. And this is what happens when you have these men who have to kowtow to Hollywood, have to kowtow to the whole system that's out there, because you can't put a movie out there where the man saves the woman. That's out.
She saves him.
Yeah, she has to save him.
Right.
I mean, this is 2025, for goodness sakes. And you can't have a guy that's too assertive, because assertive aggressive men beat women. Everyone knows that. I mean, it's just common knowledge, right? And so he has to be this soft, caring, loyal puppy, right? He's got to be loyal.
You might be onto something with the dog and the puppy. The loyal.
Oh, interesting.
Fidelity, Fido.
Oh, interesting. Huh. All right.
I'm into semiotics. Symbols mean something.
But I mean, yeah, does Superman in this movie come across as a guy that knows what he wants, goes after what he wants, makes clear, hard decisions that not everyone's going to make, but it's a sacrifice to make the decision because he knows what's right? Is that what I'm seeing? And I have to say, that's not what I saw in this movie.
I feel the whole movie was trying to retell the Superman story from the very first shot of seeing him in that position throughout, hearing. There's a lot of talking in this movie.
Yes.
There's dialogue galore
Yes.
that it seems like it's not necessarily for the characters, it's for us.
Oh.
We need to know. Like that first
Yeah.
discussion between Lois and Superman about boundaries of countries and
Yeah.
keeping track of where you are so you don't violate governmental.
Yeah, the little interview she gives Superman it tells you a lot.
Right, because they're rewriting what Superman's place in the world is.
Yes.
Before that, Superman just went into a country. He saved lives. It's always the individual lives that we
Yeah.
see. He is the savior of the individual. And this is more or less, you shouldn't be doing that anymore.
That's right. He was scolded for saving. This is not Iron Man. This is not the Iron Man that went in, blew some stuff up, stopped some stuff, and said, "You're welcome." He was assertive, so he probably beat women. He knew what he wanted, and so that makes him toxic, a toxic male. And so you can't do that anymore. I think that movie, Iron Man 1 anyway, just got under the radar of the great Iron Curtain of feminism that was slowly coming down all these years. But when he was, thank you. I had to tell, for those of you that are watching, I had to tell him to be very careful about the table because the table makes noise. And, as you know, State of the Union is janky. And so we have a lot of janky stuff around here that I don't want to get on the recording. Okay. So the whole feminism issue is something I'd like to talk about because when Lois was having this conversation with Superman and interviewing him, what I noticed was this big difference between the Lois Lane of the 70s, like, what was her name? Oh, why do I even bring it up?
Margot Kidder.
Margot Kidder, yes. They did keep up with the idea that Lois Lane in all of these movies, no matter what Superman it just looks like a very common person. She's not like gorgeous or beautiful or anything like that, just a girl. And so they kept with that tradition that I think started with Margot Kidder. And Margot Kidder, though, when you watch Superman, 1, she looks like she is head over heels over this guy.
Right.
She looks like she can't believe that this guy likes her. She's just in awe of him. Now, of course, in today's secular world and the feminism that has overtaken everything, a woman cannot be controlled that way, right?
Well, he's the lost little puppy. She's the one that controls the relationship by making the off comment of, "I knew it would never work." Or she's the one who's controlling in the very end when to say, "I love you," and all of this. It changes the whole, and I think it's the entire film changes the whole power dynamic of who Superman is and how he relates to everything and everyone around him. And that's just one of the reasons.
Yeah. So you're saying it starts off to give everyone an alert, hey, this is going to be something different. And that's James Gunn's thing. He wants everyone to know, I'm doing it different and it's better than everybody else. And so, but if you ring that bell and you say, I'm going to do it different. One.
You can unring the bell. Or was that Batman versus Superman?
I am just a man.
Okay. I must say, I did mildly enjoy the film.
Did you?
I thought it was going to be much worse from all the...
Okay, so you're not saying you enjoyed it. You're just saying the expectation that you had.
I had low expectations.
Yeah,
but it was mildly entertaining. Too much talking.
Yeah.
Shut up and fight villains.
But you brought that up at the beginning before we went in because you know what, audience, we go see these things so you don't have to. You're welcome. So I had to see this thing twice, and you brought up the thought that I think there's a lot of talking. I think there's a reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
So it may not be just bad writing. It might be that James Gunn is really trying to push something.
Right.
Now, I am curious to know, before I go through the litany summary that we're going to create to help people understand how it's different than all the other Supermans, and then I'm going to run us through the plot line. But before we do that, what is it about all the talking, now that we've seen it again, where was it just bad writing, or was he trying to get us somewhere?
No, he's trying to get us somewhere. There's different types in technical film terms, screenwriting. We call it homodiegetic narrative, meaning one person telling us, basically they're talking to the audience, or intradiegetic, two people talking on the screen, and the information is just for you. What Lois and Clark are doing is intradiegetic. Pretty much what a villain does at the end is homodiegetic. One person talking so the villain can diatribe about everything going on.
Yeah.
So all of that is for the sake of the audience because he's retelling the story of Superman. We come in with all this baggage because we understand him as part of culture, but the baggage only gets you so far if you're thinking wrong about how Superman should interact with foreign countries. That was the first argument. He should tell the president. He should tell the dictator. He should not interfere in other countries. All of these different aspects, he's trying to retell us the story, the narrative of how we should interpret.
Yeah. And you know what? I kept hearing from other people that have reviewed this film, including Ben Shapiro, who said, he doesn't necessarily think it's woke, but there's things you can look for, and he just doesn't think it was very well written. But Ben Shapiro's not a Christian, and so I thought, okay, well, when I went to watch it, I thought, well, maybe it's woke in a way that I think of woke, because I think what people think of when they're thinking of woke, they're thinking of, are they going to criticize Trump?
Right.
Are they going to criticize the American way? Are they going to criticize something that
Which they don't say the American way anymore in this.
That's true.
They've shied away from that, and even, spoiler alert, he can't even say where he's from or where he is. He's afraid to say America.
Yeah, and I didn't know. Okay, so what Topher's referring to here is, she says, he was talking about when he came here from space. And she says, what do you mean here? And he says, I'm not going to say that. That was really confusing to me. Like, he doesn't want to say Earth. He doesn't want to say America. What does he not want to say? It's like a fact. You said you came here. Is he ashamed of New York City? I could see that.
It's Metropolis.
Oh, right. Metropolis, which is New York City. Okay.
No, that's Gotham City.
Gotham is New York.
Yes. Metropolis, Chicago?
Ew. No offense, Chicago. We love you.
I don't know. I'm not a true nerd when it
Okay.
comes to which episode, which comic, which.
Yeah.
I absorb culture.
Siegel died in 96, I believe. Look at the knowledge as it's pouring out of my face. All right, so.
Long live Wikipedia.
No, I just
They
knew
thank him in the end, in the credits.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, there's a lot of credits. Stay for the 2 extra scenes.
Yeah, and okay, so the 2 extra, one scene doesn't mean anything, but the very last one at the very end, yeah, that doesn't mean anything either. So it's just cute. So if you want to sit there for a good 20 minutes to watch a cute little scene, then good luck. So, my point that I was trying to get to was that in the writing, there seems to be, I need to point you to my version.
Right. And that's why there's too much talking.
Yeah, because I felt that he was this, he's this Hollywood guy that's really afraid no one's going to see his point, which is so good that people have to see it. So then all the talking really is away. But James Gunn is smart enough not to do it too quick. So if you try to truncate the writing too much, then it sounds like someone's preaching at you.
Right.
And he didn't want to preach.
He does, though.
Oh, of course he does. But what he did is he's made it like 20 paragraphs. So you're eased into the preaching. And Superman sticks up for himself when Lois Lane is yelling at him for intruding on other countries. But he does it like a beta male would.
Yeah.
And by beta male, I don't just mean a guy that is that cowers before his mate. What I'm talking about is a guy that acts like a child. And a child yells when he feels cornered. A child leaves when he feels cornered.
He gets his feelings hurt and slinks away.
He's going to go. And leaves her and tries to punish, right? Because that's what children do. Children, when they get upset, they want to punish the person that upset them. And so when I say beta male, when I say that what you have in this particular version of Superman, I think what you have is the super beta. The kind of hero, the only acceptable kind of hero you can have today in this world with feminism, with third wave feminism that has turned over on itself, swallowing its own tail. You have to create a beta male, especially if beta male has superpowers. You really got to be careful, because an assertive man is bad enough. An assertive man with powers, well, that is, that's toxic. How do you keep him from being toxic? Well, you make him almost childlike. And you could say, well, he's from another planet. Well, he was a baby and grew up just like everybody else. He had superpowers, but he's not ignorant of the mores of America and everything that's going on.
Spoiler alert, that's what saves him in the end, the plot, that he does know the mores and the cultural identity.
Yeah. And I'll even say this. He treats parents in the only way that is acceptable today. So his parents, they don't know how to use technology very well, and I think we can all identify with that. But he made them bumbling. There's a difference between parents that, aren't great with technology, but they're wise people.
They're no Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner, man. They went from Kevin Costner to this guy who's been mostly in horror movies because he has some weird thing with his eyes. Anyway, they went from Kevin Costner to this guy who's his wife calls mush because he's just too emotional, and all he wants. And what does he do? He goes to Superman, who's feeling down in the dumps, right? Because as children do, they feel down in the dumps. And so he goes to Superman, and he just says, "I'm so proud of you." And Superman's like, "My real parents, they were bad." And he's like, "You know what? Parents aren't here to tell you who you're gonna be." And I'm like, "Well, that's interesting." And then he says, "Your choices make you who you're going to be. It's your choices." Now this, ladies and gentlemen, if you've listened this far and you're about to turn it off, don't turn it off yet, because this is the whole point.
Like and subscribe now.
Like and subscribe, because what you're about to hear is gold. Pure gold. It's going to change your life. You're going to be a better person for it. So he says, you are what your choices are.
Right.
Now, this goes back to Eleanor Roosevelt and this idea of even back further to Sir Gordon Lord Byron, who created the Byronic hero, who is someone that's very flawed and actually a bad guy, but in the end, he makes the right choice, right? And that is the plot of almost every movie nowadays, but he couldn't do that with Superman. But he did preach that your choices make you who you are. Now, first of all, as Christians, that's nothing like what we believe.
Right.
Our identity is in Christ and what he did. Praise the Lord, my identity is not in me and what I've done. If my identity is in my choices, I'm literally damned for eternity. But if my identity is in someone else named Jesus Christ, and not just in his choices, but who he is.
Right.
So that you're not this hollow shell that the only way we can know who you are is through your choices, but there's an essence to us that is image-bearing essence. So even apart from our choices, there's some kind of value there because we image our God. So I bring all that up to say this is so anti-Christian, but if you miss it, because it seems to make sense, your actions are a fruit of who you are. This is why Scripture says, from the heart the mouth speaks. The mouth isn't defining you. The heart defined you. Your mouth is giving some fruits of that. But even if we were to take that premise and say, okay, so choices make you who you are. Let's accept that secular premise for just a second. Here's my question for you. What choices did Superman make that were a choice between two different things he could have done, and when he made the choice, it made all the difference. What was the choice?
That's what I struggle with this film, because he's never at the right place at the right time. There's always, he's kind of like on the sidelines there. Even when he has that whole diatribe with Lois about making choices, about trusting people, they're out there behind him fighting an enemy. And he's not there. And then at the end, when the little kid lifts that flag and Superman, he doesn't go there.
No,
he doesn't help them.
No, the kid should have had a Green Lantern flag.
It's almost like he's this narcissistic individual that just wants to be seen and heard, especially when he has that whole ending where he fights himself.
Yeah. I think there's something so stupid.
Yeah, he's fighting himself, and he learns that the thing that he didn't accept in the beginning, the dog, is his salvation in the end. If he'll only accept the dog, he can beat himself.
Yeah.
That's as bad as the Batman Superman ending, where do you remember this one? Your mom's Martha? My mom's Martha.
Oh, no. I never got through that movie.
Oh, I just gave it away.
Well, no, that's fine. Now I don't have to
fight
waste
each
my
other,
time.
and it's like, your mom's Martha? My mom's Martha. And then they become friends.
Aw.
Yes.
Well, I've seen friendship, based on less.
See, I think the whole thing, our culture struggles with what heroes are. We try to redefine it every generation. If you watch Superman, if you watch Batman, they're constantly changing every generation. Batman, someone who has struggled with depression and loneliness, they put him on TV. TV's afraid of violence. So what do? Pow, wham, they cover it up. Then we move forward. We keep moving. He is really creepy and dark because society has. Yeah.
And in the meantime, we make a movie about Joker that turns out he's actually not a bad guy. He just had
the anti-hero.
Yep.
He's not bad. You just don't understand him.
Yeah, and he was treated so poorly. And if you're treated poorly, you can do anything you want.
No one mourns the wicked. Oh, wait, that was something else.
Yes. But I mean, that is the philosophy of our society. If you have been wronged, you have a right to do wrong.
Right.
And so there is, this is everywhere. And I could get all political on everybody, but when we're burning things down because we believe we have been done wrong, and you have politicians saying, "Hey, let's stand back and give them room to burn the city down because they've been wronged." We are saying, if you believe you are wronged, or if you're actually wronged, then your backlash and how you respond to that, we need to make room. You might respond in a peaceful way, might respond in a violent way, but we need, our penance is to allow you to do what you want. And so then you see, the Joker in 2019, just before, all the COVID stuff, you have this philosophy laid out before everyone. Then COVID hits and everything's burning. And so, and I'm not saying, Joker had that much influence, but it is interesting how these movies are a display of culture. Right.
Well, I think there is a certain amount of role modeling and a certain amount of reflecting society or trying to influence it.
Yeah.
Because it is art to a certain extent.
Yeah. Right. And art is supposed to reflect at least someone's interpretation of what's going on. Now, let me put a fine point to it as far as the plot line.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give you I gave you a history lesson, folks. Now it's time for a literature lesson. So if you know what a plot line is, maybe I'll throw a graphic in on post-editing this. But if you know what a plot line is, it starts off with what we call the setting. So, what's going on?
The world that they inhabit, the rules of the world that they inhabit.
Yes. Now, Superman gets to cheat a little bit because everyone has an idea of Superman already.
Right. You're bringing that baggage into it, knowing certain elements.
And so in this movie, the setting actually is to prove this isn't what you think it is.
Right.
And Superman is not coming out of the clouds with this, with his physique and power, but he's falling from the clouds and smashes into the ground, bleeding, and has all these internal bleeding, internal organ problems, and a dog has to drag him to safety. And so we see that setting, and we're like, what's that about? And what you see is, I want you, and he does the thing, and it's risky. So at the very beginning of the movie, he gives you some history by putting the words on the screen, like 300 years ago this happened. I kind of like
that.
Did you like that?
Yeah, I thought it was clever. I didn't know what a metahuman was. I learned what a metahuman was the second time watching this. I wasn't really paying attention to that. There's a lot of things I'm like, I don't think I'm nerdy enough to understand who that person is and who that person is or what that means.
Yeah. Well, and Star Wars did it, but Star Wars got a pass. I just think it's risky to just throw words up on there and say, if you don't know these words, the whole thing's going to be weird for you.
Yeah.
But, I did the work. I read. And I'm like, okay.
That's context.
Yeah, you gave us some context. We see Superman fall. Okay, so we see, this is not what we think it is. And Superman's dragged into, to be healed and all that stuff.
Fortress of Solitude.
Fortress of Solitude. There's a bunch of robots that keep insisting they have no feelings, but their feelings keep getting hurt.
Comic effect.
Yeah, and it's hard for robots to be funny. And James Gunn is not a good enough writer to do that.
Have you seen Rogue One? Okay, that's a side note. Never mind.
Yeah. I really have a hard time. I'm going to lose some listeners on this, but I just really have a hard time with Star Wars back when it was manly to watch. But now that, you have all this feminism in Star Wars, I'm like, why is anybody watching this anymore? Anyway, it's fine. So
I'll drink some.
We're talking about Superman.
Back to Superman.
So in a plot line, you get your setting, and then you have what's called an inciting moment.
Mm-hmm.
An inciting moment is something that happens that if that doesn't happen, then none of the rest of the movie happens.
It explains, it sets it up.
Yeah. So like in Romeo and Juliet, if Romeo wasn't invited to the party that Juliet was at, there would be no Romeo and Juliet. It'd just be a depressed kid, and that's it. So the story needed the invitation to the party so that he can meet Juliet. In Superman, we have. What do you think our inciting moment is? What's the thing that happens that if that doesn't happen, then nothing else happens? It doesn't have to be in order.
Oh man, that's what I struggled with. What is this film about?
Yes,
because the villains that he sees are kind of very flat. They're not dimensional, like that hammer dude that looked like a fat Iron Man at the very beginning. I guess that would be the inciting
fight. And see, this is why I bring this up, and this is why I put you on the spot. I don't think James Gunn followed a plot line. And I'm not comparing him to Quentin Tarantino saying, what a genius. I am saying, I think he was writing and just didn't know what he was doing. See, what an inciting moment does is it gives the audience a sense of regret.
Mm-hmm.
When the bad stuff starts happening, the audience says, if only he didn't do X, none of this would have been a problem. And you're watching Romeo and Juliet at blah blah blah, theater or community theater or whatever. You have to torture yourself to watch that terrible play.
Ugh, I hate it.
But when you go there and you see how this is just going downhill for this guy, and this is terrible, and no, don't lie to your parents about being dead. Anyway, you just think, man, if he just didn't get invited to that party. And that's what the inciting moment does. It gives you a pinpointed moment where you can say, if only this didn't happen. And it fills you with angst.
Right.
If I can pronounce it that way. But in this movie, you're not...
Angst if you're from Milwaukee.
Yeah. And that's what I like to call it, angst. That gives you some real guttural sounds. Angst. I got some angst. So I had no angst in this movie because I'm thinking, well, I don't know where the rising action even started.
I don't think it's about action. I think he is so driven by retelling the Superman myth according to the way he wants to set it up, according to how he wants to drive the franchise and all the little extra characters that he wants to spin off. It's about characters, not plot.
Yeah.
I truly believe that.
You know, when I was in my MFA program, you can always tell who the first year MFA people were because they'd write their short story. And my professor would say, "You wrote an amazing conversation." However, it's not a story.
Right.
You helped us peer into someone's conversation. The reason it needs to be a story is because no one cares about a conversation. We are story people. God made our brains
very much
in a story mode so that everything, all the data points of this world will mean nothing unless we plug it into the story we believe we're living in. And so your very sense of thinking must have within it the idea of story and how do these data points fit in. And this is why kids in school have a hard time caring about the data points when the teacher fails to plug those data points into the life they're living. Because mattering, being able to make something matter or to make what we call meaning is how we take data points and plug it into the life we're living. If you can't do that, you feel like it doesn't matter.
Right.
Why do I have to know about photosynthesis in class? Because what are the kids going to ask? How does this, when am I ever going to need this? And you won't. Even the SpongeBob episode where you learn about photosynthesis, it's not enough. It's not enough to have to go through all that. So, I feel, and this is the thing, even Sean McDowell went and saw this movie with his dad, Josh. And he did this little thing where he had a little talk with he and his dad about how much he loved Superman, how it was so great, and it was the best thing he's ever seen. But it's just an A-, he said. But it's just, there's something missing. He couldn't figure out what it was. And that's why you need to keep listening to this podcast, people.
Subscribe and like.
Subscribe and like. I mean, Sean McDowell, he's probably a nice guy, but he's giving it an A-. I'm giving it a D-. Ooh. Yeah. And this is on many levels because he may have gotten maybe a C- on some stuff, but then the F's get all tangled in there. It's a D-. So, the thing that Josh and Sean, if you're listening to this, I will tell you why you gave it an A-, why there was something missing. Aside from missing the fact that you just watched a movie about a super beta male, the thing that's missing is the plot line. The things that is missing are the things in a story that makes you care. What we cared about was Superman. We had an idea of what we wanted Superman to be, and James Gunn creates this square peg, and we have this, or the square hole, and we got a round peg, and we're like, it just doesn't feel like it fits in there. And it doesn't fit in there because he gave us this setting, and then all of a sudden there was just things happening.
Right.
And you're like, well, where's the choice? Where's the thing that happened that started something? But it's just stuff is going on.
Even when there's that moment when his parents call him to watch the TV and he stands there and we hear that music starting up, the John Williams theme is not enough in this film. No. That John Williams theme that we know, and he stands there and we see that close-up. Close-up show emotion. Close-up show connection between the audience and the character. When we see that moment, we think, okay, that little boy holding up that flag and Superman standing there, there is going to be that moment that Superman is going to rise to the event and he is going to take over and and take over everything. He doesn't.
No.
He doesn't go there. He lets someone else handle that destiny.
Which, and and let me tell you, it's not, when you see, okay,
But I think this is all a setup for something more. He's telling us who we should interpret Superman as, and he's setting it up for the next round of Superman and Justice Gang League.
Yeah.
All of them.
This is a cool name. I don't care what anyone says. So, okay. So here's the thing. In the rising action, a well-told story has a lot of events that are building up to something. Now, some of you that know what I'm talking about with a plot line, you may have been taught that the rising action, all these events that are leading to this big moment, is leading to a climax. But I would say no. Climax comes later. Climax is a result of the falling action. The rising action is where you have all this buildup is to a decision, what we call a crisis. And the main guy has to make a choice that's going to make all the difference. In Romeo and Juliet, Romeo finds his best friend in the whole wide world has been murdered by Tybalt, right? Mercutio has been murdered by Tybalt. Now, Tybalt is his new wife's cousin. And so there's going to be consequences if he murders Tybalt in revenge. So he has a choice. I could either have revenge and kill Tybalt, that will lead to some dark stuff, or I can turn him into the prince. The prince was running things. He could have just told the prince, my cousin, best friend, Mercutio, has been murdered. Murdered. Sorry.
Fox in your house.
And he could have gone that way. So he has this crisis. What do I do? Whatever he chooses is going to change the whole story in a different way. That if he would have chosen differently, you wouldn't have the kind of Romeo and Juliet you have. And he chose to have revenge. He murders Tybalt, which leads to him being banished. Consequences. And so he's gone. This makes his new wife so upset. They have this plot of pretending she's dead, and she goes in the catacombs. He doesn't know it's fake. He goes down there to kill himself. He kills himself. She kills herself. And if none of that would have happened if he didn't get revenge, that's a real crisis. That's when you have a choice that makes all the difference in the world. But like you said, this was the crisis. Do I go help the little kid whose country apparently only has machetes and
that whole aesthetic
was so
it was like
dumb.
on the back lot of Fox Studios. They spend millions of dollars on the city, but they just have on the back lot two little sides, the Sharks and the Jets, ready to battle it out, a dance-off.
It was so bad. You had these, CGI tanks and all this stuff against these people with machetes.
I don't think they were CGI. There's three of them.
Yeah, that's true. They could afford
Rental.
three. Yeah. And so then you had these tanks and these soldiers that were incredibly old, had all these machine guns and everything, and they're about to fight people that had nothing more than knives, spears, and I swear there was a pitchfork
and a cinder block.
There was a cinder block. Yeah.
And the guy was wielding that cinder block like it was 2 pounds.
I mean, it was just so cartoonish. It was so dumb.
I think the aesthetic was for a reason, though. I think the aesthetic was, okay, all of this looks very real, but war is silly and dumb and stupid.
Oh,
and I think the aesthetic was there, or they ran out of money.
Yeah.
I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that the aesthetic is supposed to look dumb.
Yeah. Well, and in this crisis, okay, that is supposed to define, right? We just heard his gumpy dad tell him that choices are everything. It tells you who you are. And then he goes inside, and like you said, the close-up, you see this little kid waving a Superman flag saying, "Help us, all we have are pitchforks." And he's like, dun, dun, dun. Now I have to choose. Do I go and try and help people with the physics rift that's going to destroy the Earth, or do I help this kid? And what does he do? Well, he's kind of able just to handle both.
But remember, Lois scolded him for wanting to interfere in that country's war.
So he has Green Lantern do it.
Right.
That's better.
And he handles the schism in the United States that's happening between...
Oh, that's interesting. it's so the choice he's finally able to make
Yes, that he
isn't
doesn't.
even really a choice because
But that happens constantly in the film.
Yes.
Over and over and over, he is sidelined. I mean, even the big, dopey creature, he does not cause it to fall. He is a sideline. Every single major point of that film, Superman is standing on the sidelines watching the action happen. The whole moment of Lois and Kent talking to each other, they're in the background killing a creature.
Yes.
What is that about?
And it was this random creature. It wasn't like, no one reading the comic books are going, oh, yeah, I remember that.
No, they will. They will. That is a specific creature that they destroy.
Okay.
That is
I stand corrected. I'm
telling you, the whole film was filled with nerdisms that I just was not. And that's how I feel about all these superhero films. They're just filled with all this like nerdism, like, ooh, that mug. I should know what that mug means.
Yeah.
Because we just had anytime you see a close up in a film, you wonder, what is that close up for? I'm supposed to pay attention to it.
All the Easter eggs, right? All the
Right.
Easter eggs. See, I know the lingo.
Very good.
Thank you.
That
So,
FA is paying off.
yeah, see, it was worth it. Totally. It got me tons of jobs. Okay. So, how are we doing on time? Oh boy. So, okay, let's wrap it up.
Where's God in this film?
Yeah, this is the anti-Christian, and I'm not saying that he goes after Christians. This is why someone like Sean McDowell can watch this and go, I give it an A-, and they're like, oh, okay, because it doesn't say Christians are stupid, and it doesn't, no one is looking up at the heavens going, there is no God. There's nothing like that, and so people think, oh, this is fine. But if you miss, how Superman, who is supposed to be Superman, is now this sidelined guy that never gets to actually do anything. He never makes any real choices. He's actually this innocent little boy-like puppy that is told how he's supposed to steer his life.
Even after the ending credits, he makes the comment that he's a goofball. He messes things up.
Yep. And isn't that at the heart of the acceptable male today? The acceptable male today is this. You have to be a loyal puppy that does what he says, submits to the feminine rules, and you have to be harmless. You have to be harmless. And so how do you make Superman harmless? I think this movie did a fantastic job at making Superman the ultimate beta male who was absolutely harmless. Despite all his powers, he was a harmless little man that was able to have everyone save him and was just doing the best he could with this, and this is James Gunn's MO is, the hero's kind of a goofball, but kind of figures it out at the end and everyone's happy because as long as a male is a goofball, and something I think you brought out, that every white male in this movie is an absolute idiot. Either they're an idiot because all they think of is destroying the world, or they're just idiots. And that is, that over and over and over, I don't see how anyone can go to this film, walk away and say, this was it might be mildly entertaining because there's a lot of colors, there was a lot of, some movement.
That's why I'm at a C+ with this one.
A C+.
I'm at a C+ with this one.
Yeah,
but it really bothers me. To me, everything they tore down about the cultural ideas of Superman, they laid at waste.
Yeah.
Who he was, where he came from, what he was supposed to fulfill, his destiny, the people around him, everything that Superman stands for was destroyed in this film. Even why he came to the planet and what he was supposed to do. When that father sits there and says to him, oh, you don't have to fulfill your destiny. Not that I agree with the new destiny that they're showing in the film, but it's who you are. Just be who you are.
Yeah. And the job of the parent is to merely praise you, encourage you, and affirm everything you're feeling. And to direct you is wrong. I mean, he even said it.
That is...
Parents are not here to tell you who you are. Direction from a parent is wrong. And so I just, I hope that those of you that haven't seen it yet and you see it after hearing this, I hope we have absolutely ruined it. Because if you like the things you're seeing in that movie, I don't know what to say. Watch more of my show and maybe.
I do think we need to do a whole show on superheroes and where the culture is and that whole idea of heroes.
I think that's a good idea. We'll do that.
Bring it on, Sunshine.
All right. Thank you for joining us for the State of the Union. I hope that this was helpful to you. I hope that you've learned some things. And I hope that this wasn't just a talk about a movie, but a talk about the way our culture is moving. And if you go to movies like this and you don't notice how you're being steered towards the culture, you need shows like this that help you see what worldviews are coming at you, what to look for. Pay attention. Be alert. Don't become someone who is harmless. What we need is what Jim Elliot said. We need men who are in the fight, who are not just sideliners, but are in the fight, that are not just harmless people, but ready to be men of action. And so I hope that's helpful. Hope to see you next time. Next week, we'll be back with the Renton Rathbun Show, and we'll be back with a State of the Union sometime in the future. You'll see.